Good afternoon and welcome to the Fire Engineering Radio, the Future Firefighter podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Baker, and today I'm joined with a truly special guest, Deputy Chief Frank Viscuso. The topic for this episode is leading yourself to success. Deputy Chief Frank Viscuso served more than 26 years on the Kearney, New Jersey Fire Department. He's a columnist for Fire Engineering, Fire Rescue magazines, and the author of several books, including the bestsellers Step Up and Lead, Step Up Your Teamwork, and Common Valor. Frank is a highly sought-after, internationally recognized speaker who has the ability to move people to action. Over the past decade, he has spoken to hundreds of audiences in and outside the emergency services industry on many topics that include leadership, team building, officer development, and customer service. Frank travels throughout the United States and Canada, providing leadership and team development training for firefighters, emergency service workers, sales teams, U.S. Armed Forces, the healthcare industry, small businesses, and large corporations, including ExxonMobil, Jersey's Mike's, and Crossroads Realty. His keynotes and seminars are designed to introduce people to the top traits associated with leadership and to equip them with the skills needed to lead, inspire, and motivate their teams. Throughout his career in the fire service, Frank has helped develop policies and promotional exams, written more than 70 standard operating guidelines, and acquired millions of dollars in grant money. He has also developed probationary firefighters and apparatus driver training programs, as well as leadership and officer development workshops. In addition to his active speaking schedule, Frank works as a consultant and helps other organizations develop and establish programs and guidelines that can help their teams achieve success. And Chief, you've been a good friend of mine and been one of my mentors over the years, and I'm just honored to have you on the show. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris. I'm honored to be here. I really appreciate the invite.
So, Chief, we're about a week away from FDIC, and I'm counting the days. I'm stoked to see you at FDIC and to have the opportunity to network and receive mentorship and fellowship with other fire service instructors and leaders. And I'm actually stoked. This year is my first year that I actually get to present as an instructor. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in a matter of a couple days.
Yeah, me too, my friend. It's always a great time down at FDIC. Like we say, it's the Super Bowl of our industry. And man, it's fantastic to be around the people that, in my opinion, that they're the leaders of the fire service, the most passionate people. So I think I get re-energized. Some of my absolute best friendships in the world were initiated and forged at FDICs over the last 7, 8, 9 years. So, and you're one of them. So I appreciate that. I look forward to seeing you there.
So, Chief, what topics are you teaching this year, and what days and times?
Well, I appreciate you asking that too. I have 2 classes that I'm teaching, and one is going to be on Monday. I'm doing a workshop, and the workshop is it's officer development workshop that I have taught before. And I basically talk about just the skills needed to lead effectively. Because you know what happens, Chris, is a lot of times people, they become an officer and all of a sudden they get put into the right seat and they have no training at all. No training to lead on the fire ground, no training to lead when it comes to administrative stuff, no training to lead when they're dealing with personnel issues. And that's the type of stuff that I try to provide. So the Officer Development Workshop is on April 8th, Monday, from 1:30 to 5:30. But then on Wednesday at 3:30, I'm teaching a class, and I'll be in the main ballroom, the big room they call it, which is Sycamore room, rooms 3, 4, and 5, and again that's 3:30 to 5:15, and that's leadership traits. And that one, quite honestly, is for anybody. Firefighters and officers at all ranks, and it just talks about traits that are associated with success, quite honestly, in and out of the fire service. And I like to share stories for each of the 12 traits that I speak about, and to try to drive the point home of how it makes a difference when we're trying to lead people. And most importantly, Chris, I think it's important to mention for that particular class that I don't care if you've been on a job for 30 years or for 3 days. That is a class that just helps people understand what it is to be a leader. And you could initiate or I should say, you should start establishing yourself as a leader from day one when you step into this job, or anyone else for that matter, by your actions, by your attitude, and just by how you approach everyday situations. And that's the type of class to help prepare people for that.
Perfect. And we're scheduled actually on the same time spot, the same day. I present firefighter mentorship on Wednesday, 3:30 to 5:15 in rooms 107 and 108. And I'm actually humbled that we're scheduled at the same time. It reminds me of FDIC 2015 when I had the opportunity to meet you in person and take your class. And what an experience to read your book, Step Up and Lead, to listen to the audio book, and then to take your class in person, and then have the opportunity to meet you. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about our professional relationship in my class, how you mentored me through a book, and how I was able to learn about leadership, and how basically how anybody can be a leader. And our topic today is one, that we could speak to our audience, the future firefighters that are out there, on how day one, when they start in the recruit school, probationary, in the academy, how they can establish those leadership traits from day one, where they can start leading throughout probation and beyond in their careers.
Well, absolutely. I think it's important to do that. I think it's important that people have an idea, a foundation of what's expected of them. One of the things that I like to talk to firefighters about when they become firefighters, and they get assigned to my shift and I start working with them, first I ask them why they wanted to become a firefighter, and we talk a little bit about that. But I think that it's real important that we establish some sort of expectations for people. And the number one expectation that I have for firefighters is I want to know that they're reliable. I want to know I can rely on them. And that starts in what we call the soft environment, like the firehouse. Not the fireground where fires are occurring could be referred to as the hostile or the hard working environment. The soft working environment is the fire station. There's a lot of downtime. And I need to know that I can rely on people to do basic, simple things like take the garbage out on Tuesdays. If I can't rely on you to do the simple things around the firehouse, it's almost like, in my mind, I'll be questioning myself when I give them a important assignment that I need accomplished on the fire ground. I don't want to wonder if it's being done or if it's being done correctly. I talk to my children about this. I'm a father of 3 boys. I know you're a father. You can relate to this. But, I talk to my children about this and basically say, I need to know that I can rely on you to clean your room. Because if you can't clean your room, well, they've been wanting a dog for a long time. And we do have a dog now because they prove that they're reliable enough. But I said, if you really want a dog and you want to take care of this living creature, I need to know you can take care of this 10 by 12 room that you live in. Because if you can't take care of that little area, you're showing me you're not responsible enough. But it's the same thing with a 18, 21, 25-year-old man or woman. It starts with reliability. So that's the first thing I like to talk to them about.
And that's perfect, and that's a perfect segue. So it takes 6 months through the process from the time that you fill out an application to your panel interview to a chief's interview, through the background process, the medical screening, and you have to lead yourself through that process. Nobody's going to hold your hand through the hiring process, and it's a test from the time you fill out the application to the time that you start the recruit school. It's a test, and you have to be reliable. You have to have leadership. You have to be able to show up on time. You have to be able to follow directions. You have to be able to communicate. Most positions now are through email, so you have to communicate with the representative, the hiring representative, through email. And I believe all that takes personal leadership. Jobs aren't just given out; they're not just handed out. You have to earn these positions within our honored profession. And so, 6 months through the process, you get the opportunity of a career in the fire service, a dream position. You show up day one at the recruit school. How can a new firefighter, a boot, a plug, a probie, how can they from day one on the job prove to their fellow classmates and the colleagues and their fellow candidates, how can they prove to them that they're capable of leading themselves and leading others from day one?
You said one key thing in that whole lead up when you started talking about they need to communicate. And so let's just talk about communication for a second, because when a recent study about the younger generation coming into the workplace was released, it talked about what skills is this current young generation of, I'd say, probably 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds, what skills do they seem to be lacking? And the study came up with interpersonal skills. And that's not to say that if you're that age, you don't have any interpersonal skills. But what's that to say is that the children, and I have a son who's 18, but the people in that age group, sometimes they don't realize, listen, when I was their age, when I had to look up information, if I wanted to learn about anything, I had to go get an encyclopedia and open that thing up and go to page 365, and there was a paragraph and a half on a topic I wanted to learn about. Now all they have to do is pick up their phone and Google something, and they have thousands of pages pop up based on the same thing that they're trying to learn. So they have instant access to information. And because of that, they spend a lot of time socializing differently than we did. For us, it was all face-to-face. What kind of interpersonal skills am I talking about when I say interpersonal skills? Listening attentively, looking people in the eyes, showing appreciation when they do something well, being receptive to feedback, things like that. And Warren Buffett recently said, if you want to increase your personal worth by 50%, learn how to communicate. And he's talking about through writing and through just communicating verbally with somebody. So I want to take this down to the simplest level. I coach baseball teams in Toms River, New Jersey. And one of the teams that I coach is a young group of an average age of 8-year-olds. And I started coaching, first of all, I started coaching many of them when they were 4. But this particular team, I would say that a lot of them are, 7 and 8-year-olds right now. And one of the things we talk about is looking people in the eyes when they're talking to you. So at the end of each practice, I'll sit down and I'll explain things to them like, okay, we're talking a little bit about baseball, but as I'm talking to them, they're all looking at me and they're all attentive. If they're not, I stop talking. And I don't yell and say, look at me, look at me, look at me. I just stop talking. And now they know, oh, somebody must not be looking, and their attention kind of perks up, and then I start talking again. And because they know, because I've talked to them over and over and over again, of the importance of looking people in the eyes when you're talking to them. I also talked to them about the importance of shaking hands when you see somebody. When you come into practice, say, hi, coach, go up and shake their hand. Look them in the eyes when you're doing it. When you're done with practice, say, thank you, coach. Shake your coach's hand. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to prepare them to have the advantage in life. What is the advantage in life? The ability to communicate and show respect for people and to understand when something's going on in somebody's life. In other words, so many people are so busy looking at their phones or not really listening when they're talking. They're listening with the intent of responding instead of listening with the intent of understanding. These things get noticed by the person that they're communicating with. So if I'm an instructor at an academy and I'm talking to a group of kids, and I can, and I say kids, but for me, 21-year-old is a kid, right? If I'm talking to a group of 21-year-olds and I have 15 of them and 2 of them aren't looking at me, that's saying something to me. That's saying to me, I don't know if they're paying attention. I don't know if they're hearing what I'm saying. This is showing me that they're not attentive. It's making me think maybe they're not reliable. It makes me think they're probably going to make a mistake. And I'm trying to teach them something that may save their life and somebody else's life. And they're not even showing me the respect that they should be showing an instructor, because we're not there for us, we're there for them. Those things right there, communication, paying attention, interpersonal skills, that's the very first impression you want to make. Arrive early and be attentive and be into it and be enthusiastic about it. It all matters, Chris. And I know you know this, but it all matters, and it all makes an impression on the person who's trying to instruct you. And ultimately, by the way, you may say, well, you know what, this is the instructor, but this isn't the department I'm going to end up working for or working with. Make no mistake about it. The department you're going to be working for or working with, they're going to get a report or an evaluation of some sort, whether it be verbal or written, from the instructors. And I remember when I was a training officer, I remember the instructors one time sitting down saying, okay, here's your 8 new firefighters, and we're going to sum them up for you. And they basically hit the nail on the head with all 8 of them. And one of them, they said, look, this guy shows up in the morning when everybody's getting ready, they're having a bagel. We come into the classroom and everybody starts talking fire just before the instructors start. He's over in the corner looking through his paper, seems like he's disinterested. And he started basically telling me he's not into it. And you know what? He didn't even ever really give the impression that he ever was into it. But they basically hit the nail on the head with every one of them because of the way they responded at the academy. And once you get a reputation, it's really hard to shake it in this industry, or most industries for that matter.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody's watching, and you're always being watched, and you never know. In the academy setting, it's the small things. It's the interactions, it's the communication, it's the respect. You're going to have a lot of instructors. You're going to have special guests that are going to come in, and you have to be attentive. You have to sit in your seat. You have to give them the respect and the time, the eye contact, shaking their hands at the end, and thanking them for their time. Because again, they're not there for them. They're there for you as a recruit, as a plug, as a boot, as a probie. You're going to have the opportunity to meet so many people, and a lot of those instructors could be from mutual aid agencies. They could be from neighboring jurisdictions or boroughs or districts. And the fire service is a small world. Definitely, they'll remember you, and I'm sure in your career you're going to cross paths with them again. And the small things matter: communication, attention to detail, inquisitive, appreciation, respect. All those things are very important, and especially gratitude. At the end of their session of the class, go up and thank them. Thank them for their time, and thank them for taking the opportunity to make time out of their day to come and invest in you. So that's gold. That's perfect. So Chief, now we can kind of change gears. We can transition. So through the academy, they get their station assignment. They are given the opportunity to go work at a station. How can these recruits start probation, and how can they lead themselves through that probation? Either it's 12, 16, 18 months. Some departments have like a 2-year probationary period. How can they lead themselves through that process to be able to earn that seat and to receive that badge and to make it in this career?
It's an interesting thing as you asked that question. I'm going back maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I co-authored an article, 25 things new firefighters should know and do. And I'm just going to say what they are. There's a paragraph after each one of them to explain it, but I'm going to say what each one of these 25 things are real quick, and we could elaborate a little bit more on it, and then I'll actually explain to you why I'm bringing this up, because there's a story that happened recently that will basically bring this all together. But one, respect the job. Two, arrive early. Three, be social. Four, find the senior firefighter. And I say that, by the way, because that could be your greatest asset. That's the one with the most knowledge. That's the one that could potentially really embrace you and show you the way. We'll talk more about that maybe in a little bit. But 5, be proactive around the firehouse. 6, be the first to rise and the last to sleep for career firefighters. 7, find a mentor. And you mentioned something earlier, by the way, how you said I mentored you through books. Finding a mentor doesn't mean it has to be a person that works on your group in your fire station. It could be someone through a book. It could be someone through social media. It could be someone from another organization, but it's someone that possesses the qualities and the attitude and basically disposition that you want to possess, and you can learn a lot from that person. 8, know your riding position and responsibilities. You're new, but you're going to be somewhere in that apparatus. You want to know your equipment and responsibilities. 9, check your equipment every day. That's called ownership mentality. Don't wait for somebody else to say, yeah, this is working properly or this isn't. Check your own equipment and make sure it's working properly, which leads to 10, wear your safety gear. 11, ask questions. There's no shame in asking a question if you don't know the answer. 12, talk to the off-going crew. Why? Because something may have occurred where you can ask them, hey, did you go anywhere? Was any equipment used? What occurred? And get some information that can help you prepare for your shift. 13, lead by example. 14, don't try to force acceptance. 15, leave your ego at the door. 16, respect your elders. 17, stay physically fit. And 18, stay mentally fit. 19, if you feel stressed, tell your officer or tell somebody. 20, have fun. 21, be a team player. 22, be accountable. 23, respect the public. And 24, make safety your priority. And 25, pay it forward. Meaning, you're new now, but one day you're going to have, I don't care if it's 2 months on a job or 20 years on a job, help the new person. And Chris, I want to share the story with you because this, like I said, this was written more than a handful of years ago. And just recently, and I wrote about this in a new book, but just recently, a deputy chief approached me and told me that he had a couple new firefighters on his group, and after a few months, they do performance evaluations. The captain does a performance evaluation for the new firefighter. And when the performance evaluation was handed to the deputy, he was reviewing it, and it really was not a favorable one. It basically painted him as being lazy, unattentive, and the last one to participate in anything, whether it be training or work around the fire station. And the deputy chief was concerned about this, but he also was a little bit confused because this isn't the kid that he saw. He saw somebody who was always working when they were out there training, because he doesn't spend the downtime with all these firefighters, but when the deputy would show up at a training site, this guy seemed attentive into the job and seemed like he was a good employee. So he was confused. Well, the way that the procedure works in this department is they call the person with the evaluation, good or bad, they call them into the room, they have them review it, and then they discuss it before setting it up to the chief. When they brought the firefighter in, the deputy had him read it and said, do you think that's a fair representation of who you are? And the firefighter said, no. He said, well, let me ask you something. It says there that you're the last one to get up and help out around the firehouse when it's time to clean things or do things like the dishes. And you're the last one out of the room when it's time to go train. Is that true? Are you the last one to get up? And the firefighter says, yes. He said, why? He said, because on my first day, The officer told me that my job was to sit down, shut up, and don't do anything until he tells me to do it. And that's exactly what the new firefighter was doing. And why do I tell you that story? I tell you that story because there's a lot wrong with what happened there. One, I'm hoping an officer gets on this call and ends up listening to this and knows that is not the right way to do this. I'm hoping that the firefighter that's brand new or wants to be a firefighter that just gets on a job listens to this and knows that's not what I'm going to do when I'm an officer. But I also want that new firefighter to know that's not the right way to do things. Sometimes somebody's going to give you some bad advice. Obviously, that ended up bad for the officer, not the firefighter, that story I just told you. But at the end of the day, you have to take charge of yourself. You have to have ownership mentality. And ownership mentality is different than entitlement mentality, which is something I think is plaguing society today. Everybody wants a trophy, right? Ownership mentality means, listen, I know what I have to do. I don't need to be told to do it twice. Tell me once and I get it. I love that quality in people. I love it. My son Frankie exhibits that. Just back to baseball. He's doing really well in baseball. He's on a very competitive travel team. And some of the things that he's doing now, he was just taught to do 1 week ago. Literally 1 week ago, his coach taught him how to do something. It was Monday night at practice. On Saturday, they had a tournament. And Frankie was doing the one thing his coach told him to do the entire tournament. And they end up winning the tournament that day. And I spoke to his coach about it. He goes, Frankie was a big part of our victory today. And he said he is so coachable. And that melts my heart as a father. Coachable means if somebody teaches you something, you learn, you do it, and then you don't need to be told to do it again because now you know what the right thing is to do. So my advice for new firefighters is be coachable. And when you learn, and Chris, you know this as a very competitive wrestler that you are, you know the value of being coachable. As an athlete and as a coach, you understand that value. Well, it's the same thing in the fire service. As an officer, we look for that in people. We look for it. And it's something that is not taking lightly, and it's not something that, all right, yeah, he's coachable, but no, coachable stands out. It's a great quality. So I hope that helps, Chris. I know that was a long answer to some of the things to help get him started. But there's a lot to talk about on that topic. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I completely agree. And being coachable and also being teachable, those two qualities are very important. You're new. I've been new several times in my career, and I could remember I lateraled to a new department, and I was on probation for 30 months. And it's important to be coachable and teachable in this profession. There's a lot of things out there that can kill you, and there's no way you can know everything about this job. It's so multifaceted, and there's so much to know. And to have the qualities of being a lifelong learner, and to make it a goal to learn something new every day. The other thing that you brought
Yes.
up that was quite remarkable was the bad information, the bad advice that firefighter had received. There's bad examples. There's bad mentors. There's unfortunately there's also bad leaders, and you cannot make the mistake of following the wrong path and the wrong person and listening to the wrong advice. I remember I had an engineer that told me that I had to be on the department for 5 years before I could open my mouth, before I could have an opinion, or before I could say anything. And you have to think about that, how that comes across for that new firefighter. You're bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, you're eager, you're excited, you have a permanent smile on your face every day. And unfortunately, you might have that difficult person that you might have to work with. And this job, we're in the people business, and we deal with people. And unfortunately, some of the most difficult people we deal with might be on our same shift. So
Yeah.
to bring it back forward, so it's interpersonal skills. those traits, those abilities to be able to get along. And there's a good word for it, and it's called fit. And you might have to give and take. You might have to compromise, but check the advice that you receive. Check the mentorship, the guidance. Is it correct? You have to validate it and verify. You've got to trust but verify. President Ronald Reagan, a quote from him, because sometimes there's people out there that might give you the wrong information or might steer you in the wrong direction, and it's we all remember what it was like to be new. I remember it like it was yesterday. And you mentioned something huge. Pay it forward. The whole reason why Chief McAfee and myself, the whole reason why we have this podcast is to pay it forward. And I'm hoping that those officers and the future firefighters that are out there listening to this show will take this information and will also pay it forward and share it. And that's what the fire service is all about. My class, firefighter mentorship, I really honestly feel that the way that we bring consistent change to the fire service is by paying it forward and taking care of each other and passing the information on and investing in each other. And I look at how you've invested in me, and this episode is kind of an opportunity for me to show my appreciation and gratitude to you and to pass this information on to the future firefighters that are out there listening in the audience.
I really, really appreciate you saying that. And listen, we're all part of one team. That's a beautiful thing about the fire service. I don't really know that I can compare it to anything else. Of course, you have brothers and sisters in battle that are serving our country. But when I talk about the fire service, it's a special group of people. And the most special ones for me are the ones that they don't reach the top and say, look at me. And trust me, Chris, I know these people. They reach the top. They say, look at me. Look how important I am. And you know what? The minute you do that, you've already lost, because it's not about you. It's about the team. And humility is a tremendous leadership quality. And the best leaders that I know in this industry know that they don't know it all. They're humble. They're always learning. These are the best that I know in the industry. The smartest firefighters I know in the country know that they don't know enough. And if they know that, well, then you bet that new firefighter needs to have that as well, and then have that humility to know that there's a lot to learn, and we're in it together. So once you learn something, pass it on to somebody else. Why? Because, you talked about how somebody told you don't talk for the first 5 years. That's an interesting thing, because I know of a captain whose probationary firefighter that he was responsible for saved his life at their very first structure fire. So wouldn't it be terrible if that captain told that firefighter, your job is to not do anything except what I tell you to do, and don't say a word for 5 years? He showed him a lot more respect than that. And as a result, by the way, his life was saved by that same individual. And, just take that in mind, because that'll keep you humble too.
Definitely, humility. That's another trait. While you're new, and for the listeners out in the audience, humility can get you a long way in this profession, in this career. And you have to step up. You not only do you have to step up and lead, but you also have to speak up. If you see something, say something. If you see something that makes you feel uncomfortable, or if you need more information, or if you need assistance, ask. I think that's another leadership trait that every new firefighter that comes into this profession, if you need more information, if you don't know, it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to say, I don't know. And
Yep.
You brought it up in your 25. Another one is find a senior firefighter. Find your go-to person that you can go to for help. And I know I get it. Some senior firefighters don't like to be bugged. I get it. But
Well,
find
yes. Yeah,
fi-
well, I guess as I read that one, by the way, I said I should probably elaborate a little bit more on that one. Some senior firefighters checked out a long time ago. That's not the one I'm talking about.
yeah.
It just means find a senior firefighter that who's still locked in and can help us all. As a can help that new individual, can help you as a new individual, but can help the team by developing new individuals. That's the person we're looking for.
Yeah, and so find your go-to person. Find that firefighter that you can go to, and there's no silly questions. There's no stupid questions. Find that person that you can go to, and that one person, they might save you. We're having a lot of firefighters that are committing suicide. We're having a lot of firefighters leave the fire service. We're having a lot of firefighters that are checked out, and so having that mentor, having that senior firefighter that you can go to, if you're having problems, you mentioned it in your 25. If you're feeling stressed, if you're having a hard time sleeping, if you are having a hard time on shift work, find that person that you can go to and ask them for guidance and assistance and help. And you mentioned it. We're a team, and we're only as strong as our weakest link. And it's important to invest in each other because we all want to make sure that we all go home at the end of the shift, and it's our responsibility to be our brothers and sisters keeper and to take care of each other.
Absolutely, 100%. I could not agree with that more.
So, Chief, your last parting remark, your nugget, your wisdom, the last thing that you could share with our audience before we wrap up the show.
Well, you know what? Here's my advice. Same advice somebody gave me a long time ago when I was trying to achieve success in more than one area of my life, and I was struggling in all these areas. He said to me, "Hey, you know what your problem is?" And I said, "What is my problem?" And he said, "You keep starting." I said, "What's wrong with that?" He says, "You need to stop stopping." He said, "The key to success is get started and stop stopping." And I thought, well, man, I mean, that's so simple, but it's real, Like if you have a goal in life, my goal is to be a firefighter, my goal is to be an officer, my goal is to whatever, write a book. Well, get started doing that thing and stop stopping, because people, for some reason, they think that, hey, if it doesn't happen right away, it's not going to happen. No, that's not the case. If it doesn't happen right away, keep plugging away. I listened to a guy just the other day who's an extremely successful, both financially, from a family standpoint, from an impact he makes on a world standpoint, extremely successful person. And he says, somebody said, "What do you attribute your success to?" And he says, "Honestly, I can't figure out why other people haven't figured this out. But success is just about not giving up." He says, "Everything that I'm good at today, I was terrible at, but I just kept doing it until I got good at it." And Chris, that's my parting thought right there. Don't give up.
Wow, that's gold, and it's so simple, but yet so eloquent and profound. Well, Chief, I want to thank you for your time, and again, I'm looking forward to seeing you at FDIC. And for all the listeners out in the audience, I highly encourage you to follow Frank and to follow his travels. He travels all throughout the country. I'm actually really surprised that we found this opportunity to record today. It's hard to keep up with you, Chief. But if you can, go out and buy Step Up and Lead. Uh, if you have the opportunity to go to a conference like FDIC, please take this class. And it's the simplest things, but yet the smallest things can make the biggest difference. And Chief, if you could share your contact information for the audience and how the listeners out in the audience could reach you for more information or more assistance.
Yeah, I mean, it's real simple. First of all, my website is my name, frankviscuso.com. That's all one word, Frank Viscuso, V as in Victor, ISCUSO. And on Step Up and Lead is the website that's easiest to follow, my work on Facebook. It's a Step Up and Lead Facebook page. And you'll find that, if you just do a little search on that. And everything could be found from there. I'm on Twitter, and it's just my name, Frank Viscuso on Twitter. It's just my name on Instagram. And I try to keep it simple that way. So I'm easy to find, and all my contact information is on my website and on social media. So if anybody needs to get a hold of me, feel free to send me an email, give me a phone call, or whatever I could do to help. I'd be happy to try.
And I could be that testimonial. Several years ago, you mentored me through a book. We networked through social media. We got to meet in person, and now we have a professional relationship, a friendship, and you're still mentoring me even till today. So I'm just really appreciative of you taking the time out of your schedule to not only invest in me, but to invest in a lot of other people out there in the fire service.
Well, make no mistake about it, my friend. You inspire me as well. I follow you. I see everything that you're doing. Well, the thing about me or about you that impresses me the most is you seem to be tireless. I mean, you really just keep going and going and going, kind of like the energy bunny, or Energizer bunny. That you're just putting content out there. You're inspiring people, and everything you do is for the betterment of somebody else, and that's a rare, special quality. And that's why I appreciate having you as a friend. So thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you, Chief. I'm honored, and again, want to thank Fire Engineering, Chief Bobby Halton, Clarion Fire Rescue Group, FDIC. I'm counting the hours. We're starting the countdown. So, Chief, again, thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple days.
Yeah, me too. Be safe, and I'll see you soon.